Phillip Lim, welcome to In Fashion. Thanks for being here today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We're very happy to have you here. I want to start by talking to you about the present, about what's happening at the moment, because it's a very exciting time for you. 2012 has been such a huge year.
Yes.
You've had Saks, more stores, online. Can you talk to me about how would you see 3.1 Phillip Lim at the moment?
It is in the present, as what the subject we're talking about. You know, 2012. It's been quite a year, and actually I feel like it's disappeared already. Prior to that, I was taking some time off just to like really think about what I really wanted to do with fashion, and just figuring out this whole idea of this love-hate, loving the subject matter, but then trying to negotiate the ins and outs of this industry. And I think 2012 this year has been kind of an acceptance personally of, okay, so these are the rules of engagement, and let's just go. As they say, it's like, let's get it done, son.
I'm interested by what you say about that kind of love-hate relationship with fashion, because it seems to me that you have a very different relationship to fashion than a lot of other designers of your generation. Like, people like to say that fashion, it dies twice a year and then it comes back. It's all this new kind of trends, whereas particularly I'd say of your last two shows, you do seem to stay away from that. You're more interested in longevity and wearability and functionality.
Yeah.
Would you say that's the case?
That's the case for sure. You hit it right on the spot. For me, there's something so beautiful about temperance. You know what I mean? Things are temporary, things are fleeting, but that is very different from disposable. Mm-hmm. I love the whole idea of just capturing a moment, but then trying to move that moment forward, and that is through just evolution. And really, like, what I do is, I guess I would be an evolutionist, right? You keep evolving ideas, and what I love about what I do is the subject matter, and I can remember as young as 5 years old. I've always loved clothes. I only knew it as clothes you put on, and clothes your clothes you use to kind of transform you from day to day. And it wasn't until I got into the industry that I realized that fashion is the context in which clothes kind of lies. And it's been quite a struggle for me to separate the two and not get it confused. And I've been working really hard on myself just to separate, but at the same time accept the fact that clothes lives in the context of fashion. And so to the present day, I feel like I'm getting a better hang of it. Like, listen, it's not personal, it's just fashion. That's all it is, But at the end of the day, my love is clothes, and that will always be my love, and that will always be my best friend, and that will always be my go-to, like what I'm interested in, that will get me through the day. And here we are in the present. It's gotten me here.
I'm interested when you say you first realized that you loved clothes so much when you were sort of very young, when you were 5, because you were born in Thailand, I think that's correct. Yeah, when did fashion first sort of come into your consciousness?
My parents are Chinese, and I was born in Thailand just by geography, but then I grew up in Southern California, Huntington Beach to be exact. And growing up in the suburbs, and first generation immigrant, and really living, when you say when they say like taking it to the streets, literally we're like living hand to mouth, and growing up, and my mother was a seamstress in a factory, and my father was knocking on doors to try to find work, and really just making ends meet. And growing up in that type of environment, fashion never existed. It was just survival. It was just like day to day. And but for some reason, I always was fixated with clothes. I remember my mother being a seamstress and bringing work home, and I would just stay by her side and stay by that sewing machine and listening to that purr of the sewing machine, And every time she would get a break, I'd be like, oh, Mom, can you fix this? Can you cut this off? Can you like take this in more? And it used to be so funny because she would take me back to school shopping, and she'd try to buy clothes for me. I'm like, no, 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 no. I want this one, this one, this one. And she goes, oh, okay. And then we'd bring it back, and I'm like, now you're gonna cut this like this, cut this like this. I'm gonna slash this off. And imagine my mother, she'd be like, holy moly, you know what I mean? I spent all this money and you're gonna cut it all up? Or actually, you're gonna convince me to cut it all up for you? Am I insane? But apparently she was, because I got her to do it. And that's how it all started. You know, it was always an adaptation or trying to alter what I saw and make it right for myself, the proportions, just like the lines, the silhouette. And I didn't know what it was. It was just like this 5-year-old and his mother, and in Orange County, California, there was no fashion. It was just myself, the suburbs, my mother, and a pair of jeans, you know what I mean, or a sweatshirt, or back then even I started to do vintage shopping, or as they say, Goodwill or charity shops, as they call it here, I think. So I don't know where they all came from. It was just like this need, this desire, I had to go find I had to find this.
I'm interested because it seems clothes was such a big passion for you, but that wasn't what you went on to do when you started your education. Like, you did business, I believe. You were at California State University, I think that's correct. Yeah. For 3 years it was, wasn't it, before you changed?
You're looking at a business school dropout. You know, the thing about being young is it's fun, and you get to try things. And when they say youth is wasted on the young, it's true. Well, not on me though, but I felt like when I was younger, I had this like freedom to just play and try and do whatever I had to do to like just get through childhood. And at a certain point, I realized, oh no, I have to grow up now. I have to go to college. I had to like decide what I wanted to do. And at this time still, I didn't even know fashion existed. I just thought that, you know, these stores just came out of the blue. These clothes came from gods, or like, you know, it's just like who works and who makes all these clothes? Not I, you know what I mean? Not anyone from where I come from. And so just putting that on the side, you know, and using it more like as a hobby or like or therapy, you know, shopping. I had to like kind of decide what I wanted to be. And coming from first generation Chinese American upbringing, there was a couple of things you could be. You could be a doctor, a lawyer, or a business person. And I think I chose the least of the evils because it was the most vague. It was like trying to mask this whole idea of not being ready to grow up yet, you know. So I went to business school, and I realized 3 years into it, I was sitting in an accounting class one day, and I was just like, I was getting panic attacks and like hyperventilating, and I didn't know why. And people were just like looking at me, and it's like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I literally shut the book, got up, and left class, walked out of class. And in the college, there was the department next to the business department was home economics, which they labeled now family and consumer sciences. You know, teaching, learning strategies, cooking, nutrition, nursing, you know, really, really admirable professions. But I stumbled over there because I've always walked past the department, and I used to see clothes in the windows of some of the classrooms. And so I went in and like, oh, you know, what do you guys do here? And I just literally walked out of my past, or walked away from my past, as I would say. And you know, luckily I ran into the dean of the college, and she said, oh, what's your name? And she was quite shocked because there wasn't many males in this department. And I'm like, oh, you know, my name is so-and-so, and I just dropped out, I think, of business school. And do you make clothes here? And what's all these dresses and mannequins that I see in this window? She goes, yeah, we have We have classes in pattern making and beginning sewing, and we have a little section of fashion merchandising, but we also have nursing and nutrition and everything that encompasses family and consumer sciences. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. So can I take classes in sewing and pattern making? And she goes, yeah, come with me.
You haven't looked back since.
Huh?
You haven't looked back.
Literally, I followed the lady into her office and signed my life away, and haven't looked back since.
Was that it seems like it was a kind of spontaneous decision for you, but was there quite a lot of pressure that went with that? I've read in previous interviews that you said that was quite a difficult decision for your family, especially your mother, I think that's correct. Yeah,
definitely. There's two sides of me. There's this really like normal, seemingly normal, and structured and play by the rules, Virgo side. But then there's a side of me also that I fear. It is the spontaneity, the impulsive side. And at this point, the impulsive side took over without even thinking of the repercussions. You know what I mean? So when I made that decision to sign up to join this new college of home economics, my parents didn't know. They thought I was still in business school, and I did this for 2 years without even them knowing. And one day, right before I was gonna graduate, I had to I guess fess up to my mom. And I remember that moment. I told her, Mom, I actually am not in business school, and I am taking sewing classes and pattern making classes. And just imagine, my mother, just to give you a little bit about my mother, she is the salt of the earth. She's like the most traditional mother you could ever have. It's like, she's like a nun. I always thought that she would be an amazing nun, because she does no wrong, she has no ill will, she works hard, and she lives in her really beautiful, naive world. And she raised 6 kids, because I'm the youngest of 6, with working in a factory, sewing piece goods for nothing, working 20 hours a day. And when I told her what I was doing, she just cried. She just cried because it broke her heart, because she said to me, Phillip, well, she calls me Phillip. She says, Phillip, you see my hands? They don't even match a woman's hands anymore. They don't match my age. These hands are hands of blood, sweat, and tears. And my dream for you, your sister, your brothers, is to be somebody, to have a chance. And you're my baby. And you sit here to me in front, face to face, and you tell me that you want to be me. I'm nothing. I am nothing. No one looks at me. No one looks my way. All I do is work, and I work for you. And I mean, what was I gonna say? I think that all I could say was, Mom, it's not like that. It's like, I'm appreciative and thankful, but it's not like that. There's an opportunity. It's something that I love to do, and actually I respect what you do. But to her, it was never about that. It was more about like putting food on the table and giving her kids an opportunity, because that's what she did. She did it for 20 years, every day. She was the mother that woke up at 4:30 in the morning, cooked breakfast, sent all the kids to school, dressed them, went to work for 12 hours, came home, cooked full homemade meals for everybody, make sure they showered. After that, then she would work again. That's the type of mother, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so to her, all she knew about fashion was it was piece goods in a factory, clothes. And I couldn't explain, and I could never try to, because it was not her world. So I just had to stick to my guns and like, listen, Mom, trust me, I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna make you proud one day. But it was 2 years until it was like, so I graduated with a degree in home economics, and I got my first internship at Uncut Deli, and that was like crazy too. That was a fluke, and I had been working at Barney's, New York, in Orange County at that time, just retail, to pay for my shopping habits, you know, and you know, we all know that. And I was unpacking a box one day, and it was this label called Uncut Deli, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting, because I identified with the aesthetic, but I thought, wow, is this Japanese? Is this like somewhere in a far distant land? And at that time too, I had to like find a company that I could intern with before I would get my degree. So I just naively dialed 411, which is information. And I'm like, you know, I'm gonna spell this to you, Katay, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh yeah, you know, hold please. And they gave me the number for the headquarters in Los Angeles. I'm like, great. It's not in outer space, you know? It's not in Japan. It's in downtown LA. I called and I said, my name is so-and-so, I'm looking for an internship, and I'm sure you want some free labor. So what can we do? And they called me in. I had like 2 Polaroids of some pieces that I had draped or finished projects on, because I didn't know you had to have a portfolio. I didn't know anything. I was just like all alone. And they looked at it, they're like, okay, so you can start interning, how about Monday? And that was a Friday. I'm like, okay, great. So I started to intern, and then 2 weeks later, they asked me to stay on. And they were actually going to Premier Vision for fabrics, and they're like, when you come to Paris with us, I'm like, holy cow, you know? What's happening here? Because at that time, I didn't graduate from school yet. I was taking this internship course to complete my studies. I held a more than part-time job to pay for my bills, and I just accepted this full-time job. So I was like, how am I gonna do this? But the thing is, I had to also finish school, and that was for my mother. So I convinced the deans to like, hey, listen, I know this is not normal, but can you accept the fact that I'm not gonna come to school anymore, and you're gonna give me my diploma?
And they did?
And they're like, are you nuts? You know? I'm like, listen, I've got a story, I got a reason, listen to me. You say all these things, you know, you preach all these things, and I have this opportunity to practice what you've preached to me. And how can you deny me this, you know? It's like you'd be a hypocrite. I was pretty good. And then they took a minute, and they're like, you know what, you're right. We're gonna let you do this. And we've never done this before, so don't abuse it. And you have to submit weekly reports, and good luck, and make us proud. I'm like, yes, I'm going to Paris.
So by this point, you were definitely thinking about fashion as something you could do as a career, as a living?
No, not yet.
When did that come?
At this point, I was going to be an amazing assistant. I just needed to be in the industry, because I wasn't in the industry yet. On one hand, I have the pressures of my mother, like, you're a loser, business school dropout, you're going to be nothing like me. I had stacking bills, and then I had this opportunity to go to Paris to look at fabrics and be in this world, which I had no idea what it was still. And I got in, and it was like, oh God, this world is not what it was, what it seemed to be. It's not the world that they sell in magazines. You know, it takes a whole lot of ugly to make something pretty. And that's the truth. Whole lot of ugly for pretty. But I stuck in there, and then I did it. I was an amazing assistant, and at this time too, I wasn't designing yet, so I was just like, okay, so I'm in this industry. What now? What now? I never said that. I never thought that I could design clothes, because I never put pen to paper yet at this point, because I was such an amazing assistant. I was so interested in just being a part of the process to make it happen, you know. And to this day, when I speak with other interns or anyone in school, I'm like, listen, it's not always about the end. The process is the most valuable part, you know. Without the processes and people who specialize in certain parts of the process, there will be no end, you know?
Do you think that time has been really pivotal in the way that you design now? I think that focus on kind of like the fact that you had bills to pay, the fact that you weren't leading this glamorous life that they lead in the magazines, that seems very true to your aesthetic now.
Yeah, it is, and it's like, it is so true, and it's so honest, and it's the life I live. And when I'm always asked, you know, what's your inspiration? I'm like, my life, my friend's life, my business partner's life, all the lives that you see that are part of this process. That's the inspiration. That's the truth, you know, because I always think that my friends, my imaginary friends, the people around me, the people I see in this room, where it's a journey and we're at this point in our process, you know, and we're in the context of fashion for a reason, because we are aesthetes and we're attracted to things that we want to wear, things that we want to do, things that we want to make like look good. And the reality of the situation is there's life that you have to tend to too, meaning bills, meaning food, meaning other responsibilities, and how do you make this all work? How do we navigate all this while at the same time trying to like remember that this is an amazing process, you know? So I always try to approach it in that aspect.
Yeah. More than any designer, I think, working at the moment, like price point and affordability seems to be something that informs almost everything you do.
Yes.
I'm interested, do you ever find that a hindrance? Do you ever find you have to pull yourself back and kind of stop some elements of the creative process because of that?
You know the word sometimes? It's called sometimes for a reason. There are moments I'm like, oh gosh, this is so difficult because I don't have the answer for, because the easy answer could be just use this. It's $1 million, but just use it and just be done with it. But I can't. So I have to find ways around it. And it makes life so much more difficult. But at the end of the day, when we take the route that is authentic to our brand, the product, the result is so much more satisfying, and you feel like you stayed true, which is the point. I think, you know what I mean? There's been so many times where I could just take that easy route, because it would save 5 steps, it would save 5 hours, it would save 5 days, and 5 hours, 5 days in this industry is like 5 lifetimes, you know? 5 opportunities missed or gained, no matter depending on how you look at it. And I'm so happy and so proud that I've always chosen to take the other route, to stay true. And you know, it's like even now, it's like affordability and accessibility is all subjective. You know, it's like what is affordable to one person is not so much affordable, and that has to do with a lot of factors that sometimes we can't control, like raw materials, like fuel, like just because this piece is like a one-of-a-kind piece. But you know, we try our best. We really try our best, and we try our best to just continue to push this whole idea of like modern luxury, which is choice. You know what I mean? Which is a choice for us to make clothes with price in mind, with accessibility in mind, and I think that is the ultimate luxury.
I think we're just going to change the tape.
We don't have to, but...
Yeah. Keep going?
Sorry,
Am I rambling?
Yeah. No, not at all. It's fine.
Sorry, they're much bigger crowds this time.
If I go on a tangent, just like, hey, come back.
No, not at all. Are you all right for tea and coffee?
Yeah, I'm great. No.
Just be 2 minutes.
No problem. It's like therapy.
You can pay me a couple of $100.
Exactly. It's like, you know, when you go to confession.
Yeah, because you can't see it. I'll have to give you some advice when you leave.
Okay, exactly. Bless you, my child.
We ready? I want to talk to you a little bit now about the moment where you started your own label, where that idea came from. I'm interested, was it when you met your business partner that really came to life? Was it always something that you'd been thinking about?
To tell you the truth, people are asking me, what are your goals, what are your dreams? And I always say, I don't have any dreams and I don't have any goals. And it sounds ridiculous, right? But everything I've ever done has never been about a dream or a goal. It was always about being present in the moment and being available. 3-1, Phillip Lim, how did it start? God, it started simply with a friend who lived in New York, who is now my business partner, who asked me to come and hang out with her for the weekend and to go help her shopping. She needed to buy some dresses or whatnot, you know. And the precursor to this was I had a company called Development in Los Angeles that was for 5 years, and it was coming to the ends of the company due to partnerships and just you know, not agreeing on the future of the direction. And it was kind of this timing thing where she's like, hey, you know, come to New York, you know, I know you just left your company, and come to New York and hang out with me and get your mind off things. And I was like, okay, that sounds good. You know, that was like a Monday, and she goes, I have a one-way ticket for you Thursday, and you can come back anytime, just hang out with me, you know. So I arrived Thursday evening and had a late dinner with her. She cooked to me. And the next morning we hung out, we went shopping, found her a beautiful black dress, and then we had dinner, and then the next day we were hanging out again, and she's like, hey, I have an idea. And I'm like, yeah, what's your idea? What do you need? She goes, you're not gonna go back, and you're gonna stay here, and we're gonna start a company. I was like, you're crazy. And that is a crazy idea, because my home is in California, my family's in California, and I'm here just visiting you to help you find that black dress. You know, she goes, no, I'm not crazy. You're staying here, and we're gonna start a company, and whatever you want to call that company, call that company. Whatever kind of clothes you want to make, go for it. I'm like, let's take your temperature. But you know, her name is Wen, and she's like the most amazing, amazing super heroine. You know what I mean? She is like a super heroine that lives amongst us, you know? And she took no for an answer. I mean, she didn't take no for an answer. So just to get her off my back, I just like, okay, fine, you know, just like, okay, I'm gonna hush you up so I can like sneak out. And nope, she sent me on Monday to the address that was her office that she over the weekend slyly moved away into the back and created this empty office. And I show up Monday morning to this address in Midtown, New York, in the Garment District. And I'm like, what's this? She goes, oh, this is your office. I'm like, oh, you are insane. You are insane. And I sit there like this, like, what I do here? She had flowers even.
You had a very quick sort of progression from that right through to being a very successful and acclaimed, both critically and commercially, as a label. What was the point where you did stop thinking about yourself as just someone who's interested in clothes, someone who liked to design, and start thinking about it as a brand, as 3-1 Phillip Lim?
To be honest with you, I still don't think of it that way. I still think of it as my interesting clothes. So today, I notice a little bit more pressure, and I see a little bit more people being affected by decisions, but I can never let them take that away from me. You know what I mean? I still, to this day, like look at my job every day, and I can't even call it a job. I look at what I do every day, and like, it's like, what do I want to wear? You know, if I were a woman, what would I want to wear? What do I want women to wear? Or you know, what do I want to wear as for myself? And I try to keep this naive attitude, because it comes back to the whole idea of my mother. You know what I mean? she was amazing, and she is amazing still, because when you meet her, she is like a little girl. You know, all the things that she's been through. She giggles still, she's shy still, when she meets people, it's almost like, it's like looking for the best, you know what I mean? The eternal optimist. And I want to keep that attitude towards fashion, towards clothes.
I've read that your mum still hasn't been to any of your shows, is that correct?
No. About a year ago, we did a show in Beijing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 5th anniversary show, and it was kind of monumental because we were the first young designer in our market, our category, to be invited to Beijing to do a full-scale show, and I decided to bring her, because that's where she comes from. And prior to that, she's never been to any of my shows. And so it was kind of a watershed, you know, and it was like kind of her show, because it was like her home. And it was my way of saying, listen, look, Mom, people are looking at you, you know? People do like you, and you did good. You did very good, you know? You made me proud.
I want to talk to you about that show, actually, because that was a big moment, I think, for you. It was the 5th year anniversary of your brand, is that correct?
Yeah.
And I'm interested that you did show in Beijing. Is that a sort of, because you've always shown in America, that's always been your thing, but was that sort of culturally quite an important moment for you, going back to your heritage? Sure.
You know, it's definitely, it was such an important show because for that reason. You know, I've always fought the Asian side, you know what I mean? Growing up too, I lived 2 lives. I lived from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. this Western life. And I lived from like 5:30 to, you know, time to go to bed, the Eastern, like the Chinese life. I spoke Chinese, you know, like everything you had to obey, you had to like respect the elders. So I lived a very like Jekyll and Hyde life almost. And it's taken so long to accept the fact that that's amazing. That's amazing. It isn't a burden, you know, because when you're a child, you're like, this is a burden, this sucks. Why can't I just like play soccer and have my mom drive a station wagon, you know? But now I'm like so grateful that I speak Chinese still, and I'm in tune to the different aspects of different cultures, you know, and it's like, I look at more like she prepped me to be more of a global citizen than to just be one or the other, you know? And going back to this show, it was so important just because coming back to where it all started, and I think the most important part of this show was actually for my mother, you know? I think Beijing will be there, but my mother in Beijing, the combination, who knows, you know?
I'm interested in what you say about this idea of being a global citizen, because for me, I think there's always been something very kind of New York about your clothes, which is so fitting for where you show, and there is that kind of street style, easy New York fashion element. And I'm interested, what does sort of America and American fashion mean to you? Does that have a kind of particular resonance to your work?
Sure. The pragmatism is like really American, you know what I mean? The simple sportswear, it's like, you know, it's like one of the first designers that I really loved was Claire McCardell, you know? And it was just like so simple, chic, simple, cheap and chic, you know what I mean? It's just the whole idea of like, look, it's utility, but it looks so good, you know what I mean? It's like a utility ball gown. It's like, look, it's like diapers that you wrap into a bathing suit. You know, I love that. To me, that's genius. You know, that's ingenious. You know, and it stems from that, and that is the foundation. And everything that kind of I use to disguise it it's like what's happening in the streets, or what I pick up, or through kids in the street, or through art, through architecture, through nature. You know, but it does start with American fashion, though.
I'm interested in the process behind your work. You said that you do look at what people are wearing in the street.
Oh,
Would you say that is your main sort of reference? Or?
Yes,
Yeah.
I always say this, and I said this from day one too. It's like, you know, this whole idea of like going away for inspiration, bullshit. Who has time? You know what I mean? Every time I leave the house and open the door, I have to be ready to receive inspiration, because I never know what I will see, and I'm always looking around. And it's like, for me, it's never the inspiration is never about a particular style. It's more about like capturing a moment, whether it's motion or how the silhouettes of a clothes or someone wearing clothes changes, or like just oddball combinations of why'd they do that for? That's interesting. You know, it's just like looking at different subject matters that really have nothing to do with fashion, but could be brought into the context of it.
I'm interested in what satisfaction you get from your clothes. Do you find that you get more of a kind of a sense of happiness when you see your clothes on someone walking down the street than you do if you see them on a model on a runway?
Yeah, yeah. I'll tell you a great story actually. It's one of my highlights. Maybe like 3 years ago, I was leaving work and getting off the subway, the metro, and it's a long day at work, and I'm like just like kind of seeing doubles right now, and get off the train, walk up to the platform, and from a distance I see this lady with a briefcase, and I'm thinking, oh, it must be depth perception because she's looking kind of small. But I recognized it was like our clothes right away. It was almost like head to toe. It was like a gray flannel suit. But I'm like, oh God, I may need to go lie down because she looks really short. And we can't be that far. So she walks up closer, and I realized she was a dwarf. And I'm like, wait a minute. How is this possible? Am I even here? And I realized that she was buying the kids' clothes and wearing it to go to work because that was her size. And I was just like, wow, that was the ultimate praise.
Did she look fabulous?
She looked amazing.
Yeah.
She looked like she's serious. And I was just like, this is why I do this, because she's the perfect example of making it work. You know what I mean? Making do, just taking it and rolling with it, you know? It was amazing. That was like my one highlight of many, but that one I remember the most, because imagine the lengths that she had to go through. You know what I mean? And imagine like all her years of not being able to find clothes or even feel like she belonged in anywhere or with any type of clothes, and here she is going down the street with her briefcase going to work.
Did you talk to her? Did you say?
No.
Oh, just watch her.
No, I'm shy. I would follow her. Well, I would never speak to her like that, because I'm just like, well, what would I say? I'd be like, hi, my name is, you know, like, she'd be like, you're a freak, get away from me. I could never, but I would follow her though. You know, truth be told, I'd be like, where's she going, what's she doing? But then I'd be like, oh, okay, get arrested.
I'm interested, do you ever find it overwhelming? Because there have been certain items for you. I think a really good example is the white rose applique dress that just took off. Do you ever find that overwhelming when you're seeing something that has come from sort of your mind, something you've thought up, and then it's everywhere?
Yeah, sure. I don't know if you ever get used to that. I really don't. I think that the thing is, it's like gambling. It's like poker, right? It's like a Russian roulette. It's almost like you pick a flower and you're like, okay, I'm gonna make a dress out of this to look like this flower, and who knows? You know, all you can think of is like, I must be crazy, because who's gonna wear a flower dress? You know what I mean? But who knows? Who knows when that connection happens? It's magic, you know? So it's almost like throwing ideas out there constantly, and praying to God that there's a connection. But sometimes, a lot of times there isn't one, and sometimes when it happens, you're just like, you know? And that's something you don't get used to.
When you started doing your menswear, I'm interested because you say that you kind of want fashion, you want that naivety and that simplicity and that kind of basic, what do I want to wear?
Yeah.
Is that still how you design your menswear? Is it true to you?
True to me, what I want to wear every season. It's kind of like the ultimate indulgence, actually, you know? Don't tell anybody that, but obviously. I use it as when I was younger, I used to like wait around for my mother to like alter my clothes, or like, you know, find like butter up to her so she's in a good mood and like, hey, fix this now. You know, and now I use the men's business to hide the fact that I'm actually experimenting for personal pleasure. And it just, you know, it's a great disguise though. It's like, yeah, there's 50% of the population is guys, of course, you know, this is a business, but it's actually for me.
I want to talk to you about your last collection. And I read that one of the inspirations behind that was the kind of a superhero, a comic book reference.
Yeah.
And there was that kind of superwoman aesthetic. I wanted to talk to you, do you have this kind of view of woman that sees her as strength and power? What is your kind of view of femininity of women and what she can be?
I'm gonna say it, blanket statement. I think women are the stronger sex. And I only say this because out of experience, out of like childhood, you know, just also observation. You know, women are amazing. They're incredible. You know, my mother's my hero, my heroine. My business partner, she's a heroine. You know, my best friends, the heroines. You know, and it's like this collection was like for the heroines that live amongst us, day to day, every day. You know what I mean? And of course, we wrap it up in this marketing jargon to make it catchy. But the reality is, the baseline is, the truth is, I always make clothes for these women and these men, you know, the ones that live every day and the ones that go from day to day, and the ones that accept the fact that, you know, they need to be present every day to receive the next opportunity. So that's what I do.
Phillip, then, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.